emergency. You are tuned to the emergency station.
Hey everybody, welcome to the GARF Network. I'm Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight we have a very special episode, a fundraiser episode. But real quick, let's go ahead and address Matt. Tell us real quick what's going on with your emergency situation here.
Yes, I'm not in studio tonight. I am actually on the way back from New Jersey. I just got a chance to meet the man himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's three people in this world that shaped me as a young lad: Arnold Schwarzenegger, Christopher Reeve, and George Romero. And I would have done anything for any three of them. And today was buy a ticket to go meet Arnold, to meet him at a book signing. And I said yes. I left work early and I'm driving home, and I pulled over safely in a parking lot to do the show, because this show was going to be awesome and I cannot wait for it.
And actually, tell us who we have on board tonight for a live interview.
These ladies need almost no introduction, because they are two of the most bubbly, lovely, awesome, energetic people that I've ever met. The Soska sisters, Jen and Sylvia. I mean, the amount of energy that they're going to bring into this show. Eric, we could probably just step back and just let them talk for the next hour. It's going to be phenomenal. And for anyone that's never spent time with them, hang on, because you're going to hear some great stories. Just see how awesome they are, how much they love horror, how much they love George. So let's get ready for this one.
And also, if you have any questions, put them in the comment section, and we'll flag them and get to them as we can. Before we invite the Soska sisters online with us, we want to talk about the fall fundraiser that's going on through the end of the month. And this October, the George A. Romero Foundation, we're raising money for a good cause. We're trying to get $15,000 in donations by Halloween. And this will help the foundation continue honoring George's legacy through supporting aspiring writers in horror through exciting new initiatives. George was not only a visionary filmmaker, but also a prolific and talented writer. His contributions to the world of horror extended beyond the camera as he crafted compelling narratives that explored societal issues through the lens of the undead. The GARF honors his legacy by supporting the next generation of horror writers through our 2023-2024 initiatives, including the Dead podcast with Bloody Disgusting, Screams in a Box, a young filmmaker competition that we're entering our third year of hosting, Outpost 5, and our upcoming project in development, a virtual summer camp for aspiring horror writers. We will be a sponsor of the Horror Writers Association, and the GARF will be the marquee presenter for the Final Frame program at the Bram Stoker Convention of Horror Writers. So, and there's also some incentives attached to each donation level. Matt, did you want to talk about the first couple of those?
Sure. So for the rest of the month until Halloween, $50 donations will get a mention on the Friends of the GARF webpage. The first 20 donations of $75 will get the 2023 Foundation Fundraiser t-shirt that I think we are both wearing.
That's right.
Yep. And the first 20 donations of $100 will get a signed amusement park print by GARF resident artist Ryan Carr.
Also, all $50 USD donations will be featured on the upcoming Friends of the GARF webpage. The first $500 USD donation will receive the Fall 2023 Fundraiser exclusive shirt signed by GARF advisory board members, and those members include, one second here. That's Lori Cardill, John Carpenter, Daniel Krause, Galen Ross, Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, and who was the last individual?
Jonathan Craven.
That's right. And then the first $1,000 USD donation will get a guest spot in an interview on the GARF network with Suz Romero herself. So, and also there was a special contest for tonight. You want to detail that for us, Matt?
Sure. So for anybody watching tonight, if you donate $50 US, your name will be put into a drawing tonight that we will announce before we go off the air for an exclusive signed shirt by our guests, the Soska sisters. So if you donate tonight, hit that donate button, get it in, $50, and you could be drawn at the end of the show for that shirt signed by the Soskas.
And we'll be announcing that in the final few minutes of the show. So stay tuned for that. That's for every $50 donation over the next, I guess, 50 minutes or 45 minutes roughly.
Yep.
So make haste, folks. All right. Well, without any further wait, let's bring on our special guests.
All right.
Whoop.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Let's fix this. Let's fix this angle real quick. All right. There we go.
There they are.
Nice. Nailed it. Did I check the gate on that one? I think we got it.
Hi guys,
Perfect.
thank you so much for having us, and
Hey.
hello to everyone watching.
I'm Sylvia.
Oh, if you don't know, that's Sylvia.
And I'm weirdly always, even in real life, well, this is real life, but this is the internet. I'm always on this side of Jen. Always.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, if one of us looks more pissed off, that's me.
Yeah.
I rarely am, but I also have slightly deeper voice.
Yeah, she's the nicer one, but she looks meaner. Figure that out.
Yeah, but you know, in nature, when an animal is colorful and poisonous,
Oh, me. Like, yeah.
not your poison, not your poison.
I'm the one who comes up with the weird stuff, and Jen's like, oh, fudge. We're really going to have to be funny so people can watch this.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, but congratulations on all the stuff you're doing, gentlemen, and thank you so much for having us on board. And I heard you're doing a virtual summer camp. Former summer camp counselors, if you want,
I mean, we're
some of
virtually
us,
available.
we are virtually available, and we could say a thing or two about working with the masters' work, since we're so arrogant to touch Cronenberg and Romero's masterpieces.
Oh yeah.
Oh, guys, we have your shirts.
Yeah.
Excellent. So these are the shirts in question.
So tonight, if you put in $50,
Wouldn't it be embarrassing if it wasn't the shirt?
I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ah,
these
very
are
cool.
really nice.
Mhm.
Oh, these are nice.
Yeah.
They smell nice too. It's got that nice new shirt
Oh
smell.
my gosh. I'll
They're
put my email in
beautiful.
here too, so whoever wins, we can be email pen pals, okay? Shh. Tell me your American Mary sequel ideas, and I'll try and get it into the TV series.
Well, just to start things off, and since this fundraiser's involving writing and supporting young writers, you mentioned how you two kind of balance each other out during the creativity process. Can you describe just how an idea blossoms from page to concept to page to screen?
Oh,
Did you
Eric, I
too?
wish it blossomed, but it's kind of like it raises its head woefully in a coliseum. And it just, and you know, if it's an idea we both like, it has a, you know, it
A
has a,
standing chance.
but we are incredibly critical of everything, particularly our own work. And as we have to agree on something, which always the little seed is, why are we making the movie? And
Yeah.
it's never because somebody gave us some money and there's an IP that we have for like the next 6 months. There's usually, it's usually about the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
It's almost always about something that happens to someone that destroys them or should destroy them, but it ends up making them the person that they're meant to be.
I guess that's true. Every director has their own shtick. Like everything that Paul Thomas Anderson does is about his relationship with his dad and stuff. We're always about
We're all making our
outcasts.
own zombie movies.
We're always making our own version of it. For Jen and me, we write it down on a piece of paper, our
Little timeline.
our 3-act structure, and obviously in the middle you put the saddest thing, and towards the end of the first act we put the thing that pushes you towards the second act, and towards the end of the third act we put the thing that's going to lead you into the epilogue. And then
It's kind of like chess also,
Yeah.
because we choose the parts that we like and we're like, okay, I want to do the ending, and then like, okay, well, I'm gonna take the ending. You're like, okay, shit. Okay, now I want the middle. And like, okay, well, I want that really good kill. And it's like, okay. And then eventually we just take tag team turns.
Yeah.
And it's also amazing because there's 2 of me. I don't know what writer's block is. I know what, hey, you do it now is.
And also we make a plan of what's going to happen, but we don't go out exactly how we're going to do it. I feel like almost every writer will tell you, I had an idea, I started writing, and then it's almost like the character told me what I was going to do next. The character made me, I was going to do this and I was going to do that. Like I remember when we wrote American Mary, Beatrice was supposed to be like a 2-second thing. We're like, oh cool, what if there's like a Betty Boop kind of character? Like that's such an unusual kind of thing. And she just wanted to stay as Mary's friend through the whole script. She just wouldn't go. And I was like, oh, I love their scenes together. I think it's really funny when they talk to each other. And also Mary is such a winter and Beatrice is such a summer. And those conversations are so wonderful. It's almost like a cat and a dog hanging out together. So
yeah. And when we're writing, we always try to challenge how we tell the story, because I really think a story is only as good as you tell it. And like Pulp Fiction, if it was all the way through, it would probably be like, it's good. Like it's good. Yeah. But now the way they told it, it made it masterful.
Yeah, absolutely. And also sometimes you're working for a client, like when we were working for WWE Studios. I mean, how many years before was the first See No Evil?
It was 9 years, and they wanted to do a sequel 9 years later after they killed the main character by dropping him off a building, impaling his head with a pipe, and having a dog pee in his eye.
Yeah, so we decided to do a little bit more of a serious version of ours. But I remember one of the big things were like, it's a birthday party at a morgue. And I was like, man, let's get Danielle Harrison, Catherine Isabel, because that's going to be so cool. I'd love to see them as best friends. And then again, because I'm a Danielle Harris fan and I love working with Katie, Jennifer and I just thought, oh man, like as fans, what would we love to see them go through? And I know it's very cruel if you've seen the movie, but they killed it. They killed it. Killing it. And spoilers, people die.
We woefully do write for actors. I don't know what I would have done if Katie said no. I would have just probably continued to send it over and over again and be like, we're more normal than the script must come across.
Yeah. Anyway, but always write. Get people to read your stuff. If you have a favorite writer like Romero, you're so lucky. There are quotes everywhere. There are interviews. It's almost you can learn from your actual like favorite creator, your favorite movie. Turn on the director's commentary and just listen to how they did it. And the nice thing is you'll hear the stories that you don't usually hear. Like with Robert Rodriguez, Rebel Without a Crew, the biggest lesson or takeaway I got was he went to Hollywood, thought his movie was going to make it, spent all his money to do it, and then didn't have enough money for Christmas. All of us in the film industry and entertainment, we have to accept that, because sometimes it's a really cruel and hard job, and sometimes you don't get the wins that you expect. They take time.
Yeah, it's very true. And keep your little idea books, because you never know when you're going to see something insane happen. Be like, oh, that'd be great in a movie. Or if someone says, oh, I wish I could have killed my boss today like this, and you're like, oh, that's like really creative.
That's a really amazing idea. Yeah. Like some Stephen King things come from things that irritate him. And he just writes, oh my gosh.
I think The Mist came from being in a supermarket and being upset that he was standing in line. Like, don't piss that man off.
Yeah. And also treat it like a job. Because like a lot of people I know are really good writers, but they're like, but I'm not Stephen King, or I'm not Lovecraft. I don't know if my stuff is any good. And it's like, well, if you don't apply yourself, give yourself that 1 hour a day, and then allow yourself to write crap so you can get to the good scene you'd have gotten figured out in your mind, then you know that's where the goodies are. And I mean, if you look at entertainment, there's some really great movies out there, and there's so many that kind of like miss the mark. You could be the ones that don't miss the mark because you're fans, right?
And I think right now is a really good time to be an independent. When we made our first movie, you needed a literal camera. Now, like if you have your cell phone, you can make a movie technically.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. With my blessing, make your own dead hooker in a trunk. I cannot wait to see it.
What is the biggest challenge in writing horror today? Because there's so much of it and so much that we've grown up loving. So what's the biggest challenge in writing something that's a little different that will catch someone's attention?
Gosh, I'm sure we both have different answers. Right now, I think one of the biggest challenges is telling a really upsetting, scary story. I think some people that aren't familiar with horror don't realize how cathartic horror can be.
Yeah.
And I take a lot, very resentful to the news that doesn't come with a warning, and it's true life stuff. And the way they display information is upsetting. It's psychologically damaging. And you go to one of my lovely films, and it's either censored or you have to actually sit in there to be in it. And people are like, oh, that's too much. But the truth is, people are going into the theater for that experience. It's not like it's being sprung upon them. I think that horror has to be a little bit more elevated and mature right now, because I think that the way real life is, it's horrifying, it's terrifying, and there has to be mean-spirited horror. Like, there's always going to be Terrifier, but it's difficult to get a normal person to go see Terrifier in a time where they're just scared to even turn the television on.
And also, I think original ideas are really hard right now. Like, you have to be with a really cool team, because a lot of people, they want IP that's proven. They want to know it's already a New York Times bestseller. They want to know that there's a million people that have already read this, and there's a movie, 6 movies exactly like it, and we can follow that formula. And then something like Everything Everywhere All at Once comes out, and they're like, oh, we should make that. And it's like, that was awesome. Because that was so original. I remember when Breaking Bad came out, everyone's like, oh, we need to make the next Breaking Bad. It's like, no, you just make your own crazy original thing, and that's how you can go for it. I do still think that there's a huge market for original ideas. I mean, look at the Human Centipede. That forever, it transcended everything. People will
I like that
always
you
talk
said
about
transcended and Human Centipede in one sentence.
It's true. Tom Cruise was trying to find that movie before it came out. Most people don't know that. Like, could you imagine?
That means Tom Cruise is way cooler than any of us.
He is way cooler than anybody knows. From my friends that have worked with him, he actually is a last action hero, and he watches
Human Centipede.
And he watches Human Centipede, so he is cool. But something for the broader audience, like Night of the Living Dead, everybody loves that movie. I mean, if it's not the best horror movie ever made, it might even just be one of the best movies ever made. And you look at the message in that, and it's undeniable. Like, I remember the first time I saw the end of that, and even today, even thinking about it, it upsets me. So if you out there have something like that, and every human has a story like that, if you can capture that relatable, like, feeling, you have a really special thing, because humans like to share experiences. And if you share a horrific experience that you've survived, it's really not that scary. Well, not as scary. It's still scary.
Yeah, it's so important to have your perspective, because the lens through which you see the world is the artist that you are. And, you know, a lot of people are afraid to be original and unique.
Yeah.
And those are the people with money, usually. But, you know, stay true to yourself. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people told Quentin Tarantino, a one-room guy where everyone's swearing constantly and then a guy's ear gets cut off is never going to be a hit, but they would be wrong.
And that was the ear, guys. That was the ear. People went over to him and they're like, hey, are you the guy that did the movie about the guy with the ear? Think of it like Howard Hawks. Make your horror movie 3 great kills, no bad kills, and then you're good.
You heard it here, folks. Pick a body part, cut it off in a movie.
Sew it to another one.
Then that's one of our movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you talk about discovering George Romero and how he's influenced your work?
Well, absolutely. We're indie brats. Like, when we went to film school, we really didn't learn anything during it, and we decided to apply watching movies to trying to make our own project. And what George did with Night of the Living Dead, we kind of followed in the exact same kind of footsteps. Like, he made his own production company. We made Twisted Twins Productions. We just called in our buddies and made it. And we all made it because we thought it would be a cool idea, and we thought it would be funny, thought it'd be neat. And I love how he had, like, he always said zombies were like the blue collar kind of creatures, because like with vampires, like, you have to be like, I mean, you have to live in a castle, you have to do this. Not everybody can relate to that. Whereas zombies you could relate to. George's stories you could relate to. And I really loved that, because I was like, it made you feel like, oh shoot, I can do a story too. Like, this is an achievable goal for me.
I'm also a big gore head. Our first movie, I found out later it was Altered States, but I repressed it. And then I saw it later and I thought it was a nightmare I had. So that was a revelation. But the first one I remember watching was Poltergeist. And my mom did this big thing about gore and effects and how it's all make believe. And I was like, it's a job to scare you. That's insane. So I had to see all the movies that were considered the goriest ever made. And of course, Night of the Living Dead, when it came out, was the goriest movie ever made. And in my child mind, I didn't know what advertising was. So if someone said it's the goriest movie ever made, I was like, it is. I've now watched the goriest movie ever made. And there's fire and there's a naked lady. And yeah, I was like 6 going on 30 when I watched it, and I was like, now I've lived. I've absolutely, and I was awe-inspiring as well. I do remember another thing I repressed was the ending, because I remember as an adult I rewatched it and I was like, why do I think it's going to go a certain way? I'm like, no, it's not going to go like that. And then of course it does. I love how I'm talking like nobody's seen the ending of Night of the Living Dead.
You don't want to spoil it for people, Jen.
That one guy who's watching, thank you for watching. That's never watched a George A. Romero movie. Thank you for being here. You're going to watch it. The ending's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, we're not spoiling it for you, but the next time we come on GARF, you have better watch it so we can go into actual details about it.
I feel there's two types of filmmakers also in Hollywood.
Yeah.
There's the ones that are much better than us, and they're so elite that they're like, well, you couldn't possibly be me, and like the monocle. And then there's guys like Robert Rodriguez and George who not only are like, yeah, you could do it, they encourage you to do it, and they show you how they did it, and they're like, oh, it's not complicated, I just did this and I did that, and then it's this. And it was such a, like, if there weren't people like George and weren't people like Rodriguez, I don't think I would have been a filmmaker, because I was, they don't tell girls, they weren't saying, hey, it's time for girls, it's our turn. Like, it wasn't that when I was growing up. George Romero was my hero, or one of my many male heroes that were masters of horror, and he always left the door open. It never felt like it was unachievable to make a horror movie. It just was filled with so much love and joy, even though they're movies about the dead coming back and you kill people that you love. Yes.
Or the crazies where people go insane and murder each other. Like, they're not all people eating flesh. Like,
but you can feel the fun. It's fun. It does. There's no there's no more moments where you feel like you're watching Martyrs and you're like, oh man, I just need to turn off everything for the rest of my life and never watch anything again.
Yeah, well, the next one has so much more of a sense of fun with it, with Thomas Savini and all the bikers and everything. And it's so funny. I feel like they got a studio note when they're like, okay, Tom, you're gonna remake Night of the Living Dead. You think you can make Barbara a little stronger in it? He's like, yeah, no problem.
Tom's gone to worse. So obviously his idea of a strong woman's like, hey, gotcha. I was like, damn, she's so strong.
But as a twin, I think people forget it. Like, maybe in anime, you see it when in Luffy has his moment in One Piece. I don't want to spoil that for anybody either. But if something happened to Jen, I would be Barbara. I would be so messed up. And also I'd be like, I'm not going to talk to anybody else. You're my only ally in my entire existence of twindom is gone. I'm messed up. And also, literally somebody walked out from the dead and started eating him. Like, that's, yeah. Anyhow, your answer is
we love George.
George was kind of everywhere. I mean, you can't love horror without loving George. And also, I feel like there are moments where we would learn something from the 80s and then we'd be like, oh, well, it came from here. This is a remake. This is from this. This was inspired by this. And it always starts with, Night of the Living Dead.
I'm sure Human Centipede 2 was put in black and white because of Night of the Living
Absolutely.
Dead.
I'm going to ask Tom after this is done.
I never thought about that. I never thought why it was in black and white, because there's always something a little bit more raw about doing something in black and white, especially in today's world where you drain all the color out of it. And I feel that a black and white movie in 2023, you're going to pay more attention to it than you will color, because now you're looking for stuff rather than being in, a lot of red in your face or a lot of gore. You have to study it a little bit more. So I think that's a nice technique that some people have gravitated towards, and it brings you back to that old school feeling.
It's so true.
I also think it's to get around the censors, because they will nitpick the shades of red that you use.
Yeah, that's
we have a question from Caffeinated Wolf. It says, How old were you when you saw your first horror film that made you fall in love with the genre, and which movie was it?
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Mwah, thank you for being here.
Okay, so
We know him IRL in real life.
there's a movie that my parents and I think multiple times they had it in the background, but they didn't know we were watching it.
I think at a certain age, you don't think your kids are taking in as much information as they are, but we were little sponges.
We saw Altered States, and I kept asking my parents what I had seen, but nobody wanted to admit I had seen what I had seen. So I kept talking about these images of people turning like the weird rotting away, dissolving into nothing. I'm like, Mom, Dad, you didn't see that? Somebody at a campfire was cutting their thumb. You didn't see that? They're like, what are you talking about?
If you haven't seen Altered States, and you might not, and you should. It's amazing.
Ken Russell, right?
It's Ken Russell, and it's a movie about a gentleman that goes on a voyage of self-discovery and does a lot of ayahuasca in the Amazon, and then decides, hey, I'm going to put myself in a sleep deprivation chamber, keep doing ayahuasca, and see if I can come back at a different state of consciousness. And it's based very much on the Book of the Dead. Very creepy stuff.
But the first one Mom showed us,
Poltergeist.
Yeah.
The first official allowed one was Poltergeist. I don't know why my mom thought that would be a really good one for kids. Probably because they were kids
inappropriate.
There's the little girl Carol Ann gets sucked into the TV. So I wouldn't walk near a TV. And if you have 2 TVs in your house, that's it. You can't go anywhere because you have to cross the TV. And I never understood, because she's like, this house is clean, but it's not.
It's not.
It wasn't.
It never
and that
clean.
bothered me so much. And when this part where a guy peels his face off entirely in practical effect, and
they used real dead bodies.
Yeah, the face peeling, I've repressed. I remember I saw it and it came back like with a flash of other like memories, and it was like, man, you repressed memory. It's true, your brain does protect you. So let your kids watch anything as early as you want. but they'll repress the other stuff and then maybe become horror directors.
But our mom was so cool. She was always in a horror movie. So I remember like her door is closed, but it'd open a crack and we'd just be peeking at the movies. And then eventually she's like, fine, I'll show you one and I'll watch it with you. But if you get scared, you don't get any more. And we're like, okay. And then after Poltergeist was done, we're like crying hysterically. And she's like, no more horror movies. And then we cry even more. And we're like, please. And she's like, okay, sit down. I'm going to just explain it to you. And she's like, it wasn't real. And we're like, and she's like, it's a job to scare people. And we're like, and she's like, that was an actor, that was a director, those were sets, and the monsters weren't real. Somebody makes them because it's their job to scare people. And we're like, that's what we're gonna do.
That's where we got ruined. That's it. Mom, you did it. Thanks, Mom.
And then we would go and we'd pick up like Hellraiser from the video store, and my mom would be like, no. And we'd be like, Mom, it's pretend. Which is funny because now we're friends with the Cenobites and we've introduced our mom to them. So it's kind of like, Mom, look, they're nice.
Hellraiser is something snuck. That and Bram Stoker's Dracula. As a like under 10-year-old watching Bram Stoker's Dracula, I was like, oh, I understand why this is for adults.
Too hot.
Yeah, snuck some De Palma movies, like anything that was like really dirty. And we always thought, because we're European, we're like, this is art, like we're like, we've watched something grown up now.
If you're a kid of the 80s, there's so much nudity. You're like, yeah, it's a horror movie. Cool. Well, her boobs are out, so it's a good movie.
Yeah, if you're in the 70s, it was just like, come on, calm down. You haven't seen a horror movie before, relax.
Yeah.
I was also a kid that used to say that when I'd watch something like Hellraiser and they'd be like, oh, you watch that? I'm like, it's make-believe. It's a movie. And I would think like their mom never had the talk with them.
Yeah. I remember we watched The Stand and that ruined me too, the TV series, the one Mick Garris did. Oh, man. God, I love horror. I don't know. I mean, you're a parent. What do you think? Do you think horror for kids is good? Are they scarred? Are they better?
My daughter asks to watch Terrifier 2 constantly. So she wanted to see it in the theater, and she came back from the theater and she goes, when does this come out? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll find where it comes out. She's watched it. It's like a comfort movie for her at this point. She just turns it on in the background.
Well, the second one is kind of art house. The first one's more harsh. The second one, it was like, this is beautiful. Like this is truly beautiful.
Yeah, I mentioned something about going to the theater tomorrow, and she asked me what I was going to see, and I was like, well, when Evil Lurks is coming around, And she watched the trailer and she goes, Dad, we can go see that. She turns 13 in 2 weeks. So
Oh, that's plenty old enough for horror. Yeah.
oh yeah,
I
I mean
think about what we had seen by the time we were 13.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
that's true.
Man, gosh, I love horror. It's so good. I mean, it was always girl time for me. So when I went into the real world, and I'd be like, me and my mom watched Cujo. Everyone would be like, they'd be like, I read the book first, and they'd be even more upset.
I feel so many movies that were horror back then felt like comedies. Like the part in Hellraiser where he goes, "Let me touch you, damn it." I always laugh. I'm like, look at you though. She doesn't
want to make out with
read
you.
the room.
You don't.
It's just not being unloving right now.
Yeah.
Check yourself.
Check yourself.
There's something about horror. It's like it's kind of like The Ring. We want to infect our friends with this more than any other type of movie. So it's like we watch something and we're like, you need to see this movie. Like, and it's not a comedy. It's like one of the most messed up films we can watch. We're like, now sit there and watch it. And then you watch your friend watch this movie because you want to see their reaction. And I love that about horror.
Oh
yeah, I do that with American Psycho all the time, and people are like, "Do you want to do like cocaine? Like, what is this? Do you want to do a weird like threesome? What are you asking about?" I'm like, "Isn't he great? Look, a woman directed this, huh?"
I remember showing people Martyrs, and so many times they're just watching it like this, and they're like,
But that's like the first date movie because you throw on Martyrs and you're like, "Sorry, man, we're not going to work out."
I think we did that for a cast icebreaker for See No Evil 2, and I think everybody was just like so upset afterwards.
I think Danielle would have been fine with it.
Yeah, Danielle, I think's already seen it.
Yeah.
That
girl is fearless.
She's so cool. One of my favorite human beings. Yes. Like if Mike Myers was real, she would have killed him. Like she'd be like, done.
She'd have been over his bullshit real quick. I know.
Oh yeah. In half a second. She would have sicked her pickles on him and he'd be like, ah.
Yep.
We actually have a special guest that wants to come on and have a word with you guys. If that's okay. I want to invite on Mrs. Suz Romero.
Suz!
Hi! Hello, ladies!
Oh, hello! Thank you for having us!
Oh my God. I love you guys. You are fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
You know the version bromance? Cismats, man.
We have the lady version.
We have the lady version. I just love you guys. Listen, I don't want to take away your shine. I just wanted to say hello.
Oh, we're so happy to see you. Thank you for having us. And anything you ever need for us, you just tell us. Don't even ask.
Oh my God. You guys are the sweetest. Anyway, I love you.
We love you. You're a legend.
Have fun tonight.
Oh, thank you. And we'll invite ourselves over soon. We'll come visit.
Yeah, we're coming to visit.
Good. Sounds lovely. Okay.
Right.
Bye.
Bye, Suz.
Bye, Suz.
We love you.
Oh my God, I love her so much.
Such a beautiful energy too.
Oh my gosh, she's so
It's like
cool.
speaking to royalty.
She makes you prouder to be Canadian because there's not too many Canadian badass chicks, and then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, they deport us.
Yeah. He emails me in French, and I was like, oh my God, he's so sexy.
You mentioned earlier about make believe, and that made me think about wrestling. How have you guys become influenced by wrestling? How are you introduced to that world?
Wow. Well, it's a faded story.
Is it too soon? Can we talk about it?
What? The Undertaker
and HBK?
I was actually watching before she even looked at HBK once. Undertaker was in the ring, and it was summer, and it was off school, and it was It was the summer of '97.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember I was channel surfing, and this god, like
Jen, careful, he's married. He's gonna hear this.
I don't care. He was so fine, and he was talking about how he didn't burn his house down and kill his mother and father. And scar his brother, and some dude named Paul Bearer. You shouldn't listen to him. And I was in.
And that made you fall in love.
Yes, I was like, you didn't commit homicide or petricide or matricide or whatever brothericide is. No, I love you. And then this other guy comes in, he's like, oh, Undertaker. And I was sold. And my mom watched Young and Restless and that sort of thing. What was the other one?
Oh my God, General Hospital. No.
Anyways, whatever one the other one was, this was like a superhero soap opera for me because I was like, this is insane. And of course, being a young like girl, and they're all dressed like in almost nothing, and they're wrestling with each other. I'm like, am I making this up?
Yeah,
like,
being a teenage girl going through puberty
like
during the Attitude Era and seeing
goth
HBK.
babe pinning people, flicking his hair back, sticking his tongue out. Sorry, but wow. And I was
Jen,
like,
you're the one person who watches The Undertaker and you're like, man, he was hot. HBK was a sexy boy.
I was professional. Yeah, okay,
not-
yeah. He had to push to be the sexy boy, but Undertaker commanded the sexiness. So we saw it, and that was when Kane was introduced, and that was probably regarded as the greatest storyline ever told.
Totally still.
And that was it for us. I was also the person who, when someone said wrestling was fake, I was like, I'll wrestle you now and show it's real, you know?
And it was amazing because like after we did American Mary, we got a lot of scripts that were almost exactly American Mary, and we're like, oh no. And some of the advice we got was never make the same movie twice. And we're like, shoot, we got to make something different. And then we got an emergency script, and they're like, keep an open mind. It's wrestling. And we're like, wait, Kane's in this
How
script.
professional wrestling is this? Like lucha something? Because I'm down lucha whatever, but it was straight up WWE.
And in the original script, the Undertaker was in it, and we were like, yeah, unanimously.
It was a fun experience because the last time I watched was in the Attitude Era, and if you watched wrestling, you know, once in a while the Undertaker would die. Yeah. And you'd have to wait a really long time for him to come back. So one day he died, and I just was like, finally, like, you know, you won't do it to me again, Vince McMahon. So I stopped watching until we were hired. And I thought, oh, I'm going to do a bloodbath. And there's going to be like the movies I snuck growing up. And then there was the list of no blasphemy, no blood, no swearing. You can say the F word once.
Dude, we broke every single one of those rules.
Slowly. It took by battle we did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was so funny. Okay, guys, one See No Evil spoiler. We have like a little like Snow White scene in it where the killer Kane, Jacob Goodnight, is unconscious. And we have this girl played by Catherine Isabel who's obsessed with serial killers. And in the scene, she's going to give him a kiss, his body, because she's a little necrophiliac. She's like crazy. And he wakes up for it. And of course, this is a sensitive scene. So I go to Katie. I'm like, Katie, are you okay with this? And she's like, oh, yeah, whatever. This is funny. Ha, ha, ha. I go around the room. Everyone feel comfortable. Everyone feel comfortable. And Glenn goes, I don't. And I'm like, oh, he's so funny. And he's like, I actually have a daughter that age. This is kind of gross. And I was like, only you.
Glenn is a real gentleman.
Yes, he's actually completely 100% respectable. And I was like, I promise you it won't be painful. She'll be on you. She'll kiss you and get off really quick. I'm sorry it came out that way. It's not going to be like that though.
I remember giving Glenn American Mary and being like, you probably haven't seen this. It's probably no worries. And just so you know why we're here. Cause you're like, why are these wrestling fans directing this film? And then he loved it. And he was so like, wow, Catherine, you were in this. And she's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, no, this is really, I didn't even know movies like this happened. Wow.
That's what I love because like everybody can get behind a good slasher and everybody like all different walks of life. And I mean, like anybody who like watched See No Evil and then saw American Mary was cool. Like, and also we've been really good to wrestlers, but wrestling has been so good to us. CM Punk, who is like the greatest human being in the world, he gave everyone backstage American Mary. So when we got started working for the company, everybody had seen American Mary. I mean, like this little art house movie from Canada. It was so freaking cool. And I remember when we got our job, he was like, how are you working for the company and not working with me? How are we not making a movie? And then we're like, oh, great, another movie. And they're like, and The Big Show. And we're like, you only want us working with the big guys, eh? And I remember when we first called Paul, he was like, I don't know how big Glenn told you I am, but I'm bigger.
He's a legit giant. You know, the greatest thing about wrestling is it's like horror. If you like wrestling, you can be friends with anyone else that you meet. Like Buffy. If you meet someone, they're like, oh, I like Buffy. I'm like, great. I can talk to you forever about just Buffyisms.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we love wrestling. We might be actually working on a project with a very prolific writer for something very bloody and very action filled to star maybe somebody we've already worked with who is a professional wrestler.
Might have
May-
been someone we literally just mentioned. Who knows?
Who
But
knows?
we've been, you know, I also like those really slick, stupid action movies of the 80s
Yep.
that kind of started to die in the 90s. I like seeing them again.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll always see a wrestler, and it's like you'll always see a Baggins and Hobbiton. You'll always see a wrestler in a Soska movie. And if we can do it.
Nice. Just real quick, because we are getting to 8:40, I want to make sure anyone that wants to donate to get a signed shirt from these ladies,
Please
go ahead and get your donations in, because these girls are super awesome, and you're going to get a shirt signed by them, like super cool. And I mean, they love wrestling. Come on, wrestling and horror, man. We go together like peas and carrots, peanut butter and jelly. I mean, but then you see in wrestling has a good horror component. We've seen that.
Yeah.
You know, lately there's always a good character or two that's in there, and it's just amazing how horror can just find its way into other things, and it works
Everywhere.
It's so easy.
Over.
And I think people that aren't lovers of horror discredit how inclusive it is, because I think a lot of people don't realize that feminism and final girls were well and alive in our genre, while in other genres they're like, oh, the women don't speak enough. I'm like, well, then watch Alien or something, or watch the original Exorcist. That is a chick show.
Yeah, and I think people are a lot braver. I mean, kids that grew up after 2001, they've seen so many horrific things in real life that they're able to handle way scarier movies. Like, I remember the first time I put on Terrifier, I had to turn it off when the scene happened. Yeah. Spoilers! It's even harsh for a gorehead like me. And then, of course, I met David. I was like, he's the nicest man in the world. I can't be scared of Art the Clown.
He is an icon. If he's watching, I have to say an open director to actor love letter to him. What he is able to do, and so much of his performance is muted. It's like watching Looney Tunes and Bugs Bunny, who is one of the greatest motion based comedic actors. And the fact it reminds me of Robert Englund as well, like such a presence, such a funness, but also a funness where it's like I wouldn't want him to tap me on the shoulder if I didn't know he was there.
He feels like a horrifying Charlie Chaplin, and I mean that in the highest regard. And I really like. I'm like excited about the third one, which is crazy to say about a movie where it's a clown hacking people to death. But I loved how art house it went in the second one. In the first one, it really grabbed your attention. So it's like, I mean, like, that's horror, man. Who knew a movie about a clown hacking people up that's a little indie like this is gonna hack its way into our hearts?
I get it. When people ask me to kill them in a movie, I'm like, I don't know, that sounded weird. But now I'm like, yeah, I'd like Art to kill me. That would be cool. He hasn't killed twins yet, right?
That's my daughter saw both. She saw them backwards, so she saw the first one and she was like, I like the second one better. And then I showed her the autopsy of Jane Doe, and that freaked her out. So it's just amazing how different horror, different ages, it hits. Like, she could not watch Autopsy of Jane Doe. Like, she was genuinely freaked out. But she's like, yeah, I can't wait to see Art the Clown cut someone in half again. And I'm like, you're all right, kid.
That's good parenting.
Raising them right.
I figured there could be worse things that she's watching, like the news. I'm going to show her horror movies. You learn life lessons from horror movies.
Hell yeah.
That's true.
And it all gets wrapped up nicely at the end.
Even if everybody...
Depending on who you're rooting for.
Even if everybody doesn't make it, it's a message that stays with you where you're like, oh, that sucks. I should be careful.
I mean, that's like George's films. They were like studies of the human condition. I mean, everyone's like, George's movies are all about zombies. No, they're about the humans.
Yeah.
No,
It's about human interactions.
And how stupid we get in terrifying situations. Like, in a lot of the characters in his films, would we have really found out how horrible they were? I feel even in real life, bad situations reveal bad people very, very quickly, and you find out who is worth their weight in gold in a bad situation pretty fast too.
Yeah, and Cooper was an evil, horrible person, but he was right about the basement. Like that's the thing I like, is that the villains can make the right choice, the heroes could run for the car, and that's very relatable.
Always three-dimensional villains. Nowadays, you look at a character, like as soon as there's like a priest in something, I'm like, I bet you're evil.
Bet you
suck.
I was curious how the WWE was as a producer. Were they like they ever present, or just kind of let you do what you wanted to do?
Ha ha!
We
got a comedian.
They were ever present, but I think it's because American Mary, even though it was the reason they hired us, it was the reason they were terrified about everything they would do. Like literally before we would spill blood, they would be like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is this blood going to be? And we're like, 4. And they're like, a Soska 4? What does that look like? I'm like, your throat is slit. Probably going to be a bit of blood, just for the realism.
Yeah, we put a lot of visual effects blood in after the fact because we were frightened. Not us, but they were frightened about how much blood. I did say how much blood comes when you slit someone's throat when... Oh, spoiler alert. But anyways, there's a really good throat slit in See No Evil too. It was practically done mostly, and it was also influenced heavily by Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful throat slits of all time.
Well, the nice thing was Danielle Harris was starring in it. We'd worked with Catherine Isabel before, and Kane, we won him over. Like, we were weirdos, but it was fun because they didn't think much of us because they're like, oh, these girls from American Mary. And there weren't much of him because they're like, oh, Kane's going to do a movie. And I remember there was a point where we were talking backstage and I was like, well, Glenn, we're really lucky because nobody thinks much of us. He's like, what? No, they think much of us. I was like, no, everyone thinks me and Jen are stupid chicks and you're some dumb meathead. And he starts to laugh and I was like, but that's perfect because we can do anything we kind of want to do with the movie. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you're the talent. Jen and I wrote these scenes. What do you think about them? And he's like, I love them. I wanted them in there. And I was like, go tell the studio. And that was something really exciting because he kind of became like an ally because he was so passionate about the project. And he was like, I kind of want to really make this something special. And we did.
We did very slowly change everything around. Like the first time we read See No Evil 2, the genders were all reversed. And we thought it would be so funny if the girls were kind of like sex hounds instead of the guys. Because otherwise it's like, I don't know how it feels.
And also that's modern high school right now. Girls are aggressive.
Yeah. And one of the biggest fights was actually the scene where Katie makes her boyfriend...
Spoilers.
No words, but there's an action here that maybe some of you are picking up on. And if you're not intended, it's not for you. It's just wait a couple years. And that had such a big argument. There was a big thing of like, let's keep putting sex in. And I'm like, I hear you. I'm doing it.
I hear you. Let's put it
loud and clear. I got you, boss. And they're like, oh, different kinds of sex. And I'm like, listen, we're both hearing sex, but I think that you're not used to like women just owning these guys. And I'm like, it'll sell. People will like it. People did love it. They thought it was awesome.
It was really funny. I feel bad for the gentleman who had the sex scene with Katie because it was his first sex scene and he had bruises on his thighs afterwards.
To be fair, she rides horses. So
she does ride horses. Yeah.
She's a professional.
Real quick, we want to announce the winner of the shirt. Hang on 1 second. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Woo! Whoever
okay.
wins, I will sleep in only this shirt tonight and then sign it for you.
What if they're like, no?
Or not? You can make a special note of definitely no also.
Okay, the winner of the shirt is Andrew Rodriguez.
Awesome.
So a member of the team, we have your information from your donation, so they'll be in contact with you shortly. So
congratulations.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Matt, have you ever seen the movie Fat Girl?
No, I haven't.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
That is an insane segue, dude.
I have to because he's sitting in the front seat of his car and because of that movie, I can't look at anyone sitting in the front seat of their car for a prolonged period of time without having a feeling of dread. So if you ever had the opportunity to see it, it's a horror movie like Lolita, but it's done from the girl's point of view and it's terrifying.
I will be home tonight and I'm a night owl, so I'll find it somewhere and I'll give it a watch.
Oh my gosh, enjoy. It's a Sylvia pick. It's one that makes you want to clean after you've watched it. You're like, ugh, why?
Yeah, Sylvia, like Martyrs. That's a Sylvia pick.
Yeah,
I mean, I make people watch a Serbian film. 'Cause I'm like, that, I was like, that's a
love
comfort
Serbian
movie.
film. I laugh because it's just so over the top. I mean, the thing in the eye socket, that's so funny.
What I like is the director now says he didn't go hard enough, and I'm like, okay, where's the
Yeah.
studio funding for this? Give him
I love
a
it
remake.
because I was like, how many film festivals was he actually arrested at? And he's like, I could have gone harder.
Oh man.
I had one more question. I wanted, maybe we could close with this one. Just your opinions on remakes in general, and what it takes for a property to intrigue you in that way, to where you want to provide your take on it.
Absolutely.
That's a wonderful question. Well, most remakes suck. I will say straight out, if it's someone who actually cares about it, I like the Both Have Eyes remakes better than the original, because Alexandre Aja, you can tell he actually loved the original and came off from there. I love the remake of The Thing. Most people don't know John Carpenter's is a remake. It is. Cat People. I love that remake.
Yeah.
I love The Fly. I love the Help Me.
Yeah.
And I love the Cronenberg horror show of it all that I still
Yeah.
can't eat while watching. I think it's also like the live action One Piece. If you have something that most people look at like as the Bible, just try and do a true rendition of it, and like take the parts that you like and make them even better, and don't focus on the parts that you think don't work or whatever reason. But I really think if there's fans behind it, a remake is really important. Not only is it a retelling, but for some people it's their first one.
Yeah.
Like some people's Spider-Man is Tom Holland. It's weird because Tobey Maguire's right there, you guys, but still. That's just life.
Don't forget Andrew Garfield. He was there too, Jen.
Yeah.
That was some people's Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's there also.
For us, we're such fans. So if somebody's like, for like example, with Rabid or with Festival of the Living Dead, when somebody's like, do you want to fully immerse yourself in George A. Romero for months? Just watch everything he does and make it as true as possible. And we're going to pay you to do it. It's just like, yeah, oh my gosh, it would be an absolute honor. And then you think about the things that you need to do. Like when we did Rabid, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the original, it's about a vampire that has a tentacle that comes out of her armpit. And you only get to see a little bit of that in the original one. But for us, that guy was the real show of our remake. And I remember we even got the brilliant Emmy-winning sound designer from Game of Thrones to make the voice of the armpit tentacle.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, I needed very Giger-esque. If you don't know what Giger-esque means, it's very anatomically correct. And I remember people looking at it and being like, oh, that looks really gross and sexual. I was like, thank you. It's Cronenberg. That's Cronenberg.
I will say, without saying which movies are soulless remakes, that there was a time when I think studios were like, what do the fans want? We should figure out and make a movie like that.
Yeah.
And now there's such arrogance that it's like, we know better than any fan, so we're going to tell them what they want. And we see these versions of things that are like destroyed movies that are masterpieces. And they're like, why isn't it doing good? Is it because people are tired of movies? And it's like, no,
do people not like movies anymore?
no, people saw Oppenheimer, and if you know anything about what it's about, that's one of the most depressing things to walk into, knowing you're like, hey, I'm gonna watch a movie about the atomic bomb. This is gonna be nuts, man. Right? People still do love movies, but I think if there's no soul and if it's just for money, fans are hip to it now.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, studios are so afraid to do something new that hasn't already been done. A lot of the time you're like, why did you just do this and bring nothing new to it? Because there's somebody afraid, being like, that armpit tentacle, we can't do it. And somebody has to be like, no, no, we have to do this because David Cronenberg would have done it. This crew is here, his cast is here. We have to do it. And I think those are the ones that win because you're like the story about Alexander Aja is he wouldn't shut up about The Hills Have Eyes, and he was working on another movie. And then one of the people he worked with ended up producing the Hills Have Eyes remake, and they're like, oh, we have to hire this director because he wouldn't shut up about it. Like, I think people like that, you guys are the lifeblood of the industry and all of entertainment. Like you directed, and those people tend to make the best storytellers.
Yeah, and fans, don't see a shitty horror movie. If you're like, it looks shitty, might it be good? Nah, screw them on the first weekend. Definitely don't go. If you have to see it, maybe see it on the third weekend, but make sure that you're screwing them to be like, it's not good. You need to make a good movie without just putting $20 million in advertising. The fans have spoken.
Yeah, and if you want to see a great independent, Outpost just came out from Jolo Trigiello from Brooklyn 99, and he is a prolific horror director, and he's so funny, and I think he's too funny for anyone to realize he's scary as hell. So check that out. It just came out.
And if you want to argue with your friends, The Fly, The Thing, Cat People, all perfectly awesome remakes.
And also, we control over social media. Hit us up. Actually, Jen and I will also give away some free stuff and hit it up to GARF, so you guys have more stuff to give away, some like posters and stuff from American Mary.
Yeah. If you're watching, please, you can always support GARF. That's
Yes.
the amazing thing. You're going to be there forever.
Yeah, and they're legitimately cool. They care about this stuff. So guys, thank you. Thank you.
Y'all tolerate us. There couldn't
Yeah.
be a much greater goodness in the world.
No, we love this. This is
amazing.
This is the fun stuff.
Aw, the feeling's
live for this.
mutual. Matt, thank you for not getting murdered in your car. I have been afraid this whole time. I actually saw people go by you at one point. I was like, no.
I'm between a Texas Roadhouse, a Barnes and Noble, and a Spirit Halloween, so I think I'm doing okay.
Oh, there's a spirit. Don't even worry.
That's
Don't.
like a holy trifecta. That's awesome.
I didn't know Trinity had you.
This is your
Yep.
evening for Austrians too, because we have Austrian blood as well.
Oh, yeah,
much
that's
like
right.
Schwarzenegger.
Like I told you earlier, I said today is like one of the best days ever. Meeting Arnold, and I get to end the day with you guys and Eric. Like I'm like, this is wonderful. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go home and go to sleep, go to work in the morning. That's okay.
Stay up late and watch some weird horror movies.
I do all the time, and then people at work were like, "What'd you do last night?" I was like, "I don't know, I watched a couple of movies," and they're like, "What'd you watch?" And I start listing it. Lucky my coworker is totally cool, and she'll watch anything I recommend to her. So you guys are going to be on her list tomorrow.
Oh, that's
after
sick.
I tell her. So
Let us know how that goes. I'm always curious
I-
when somebody sees something of ours.
All right, Jen and
No,
Sylvia,
definitely will.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight, and much appreciated. We look forward to seeing you guys again in the future if you guys are up for it.
Anytime. Next time we'll do it so you think we're here, and then I'll sneak up behind Matt in the car.
Yeah, and we'll drink some Red Bull, so we'll have more energy next time.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm gonna be like, why does Eric want me to do this show from the car? Okay. I won't question it.
Pop up in the back seat. They're like, Sylvia wasn't here today.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and we'll hopefully be talking to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh,
Oh,
and they're gone.
And they're
Yeah.
gone.
All right, that was super fun, as expected. And there's still time, folks. If you haven't already, go to GeorgeRomeroFoundation.org and hit the donate button. And every little bit helps. We're collecting through the end of March. Or, I'm sorry, end of Halloween. Sorry, not March.
No, yeah, seriously, guys, it helps. Like Jen and Sylvie were talking. You know, we want to see new filmmakers. We want to see new ideas. They're out there. And I think just a lot of people just need a little bit of extra help to get through. And that's what the GARF is all about, continuing George's legacy and helping foster new and upcoming independent horror film makers, film writers, anything in the genre. It's out there, and that's what we're here for.
All right, guys. Matt and I are going to be signing off, but we'll be seeing you at the end of the month for the Screams in a Box Film Festival. So until then, I'm Eric.
I'm Matt.
And we'll see you next time on the GARF Network.